Hi everyone, welcome you all. In this video, I'm going to show you how to use listeners in JMeter. So basically the listeners provide access to the information which JMeter gathers about the test cases while JMeter runs. So the results or information gathered by the listeners can be shown in different formats. Like we can see in the tree format, tabular format, graph format, or sometimes we can send the report. We can also upload the results into log files. So there are different types of listeners are available in JMeter. So some of them have listed out here, like results in a table, results in tree, graph result, aggregate report, aggregate graph, summary report, and finally we have simple data writer. So let's see one by one how we can use these listeners. So let's go to JMeter. So I have a new test plan created here. So first of all, I will add number of threads or users. So let's go to thread group, and here I'm just adding currently just 3 users. Now number of seconds 1 and loop count is 1. So I'll just say thread group 1 and save it. So let's go to test plan, and I have just added thread group and I'm just saving the plan. So test plan I'm saving. I already have something. Okay, so my test plan.jmx, I'm saving it. And once you have saved it, now I have just created one thread group 1. So for this thread group, I need to specify the sampler. So that is request. So I'm just saying HTTP request. And here the server I'm going to hit is let's say gmail.com. So this is a server I'm going to hit, and the path is root is /. So this is your HTTP request. So once we have hit this request by these 3 number of users, we need to see the result. So I can just add listener here. So right click here, go to add and go to listener, and you can see a lot of listeners available here. So first time I'm just going to add one listener called view result table. So view results in table. So I'm just adding this particular listener. So it contains some number of columns like sample, start time, thread name, label, and so on. So once you have run your listener, and then once you have run this plan, then you will see the result here. So I'm just saving the plan again, and let's go and execute this plan. Before that, I'm just cleaning everything and just run the plan. Now you can just go to the table. Now here you can see there are only 3 users have mentioned. So the request is sent by 3 users. So if you see this particular table, you can find a sample and start time when the request is started, and it is representing the thread group name, and 1 is representing, so one user first request, one user second request, another user third request is sent. So 1 2 3 is request. This one is nothing but 1 2 3 is the users, and 1 is representing the request. So currently we have only one HTTP request. So here sample time, so the sample time is nothing but the complete processing time, and the status is passed and bytes is nothing but the total size of the response and sent bytes. And latency, so latency is very important here. So latency is basically whenever a difference between the time when request was sent and time when response has started to be received. So basically what is the latency time is, so whenever we send some request, immediately we will get some acknowledgement from the server. Suppose let us say one example called file download. Whenever I click on the download button, immediately the download will start. So that is immediate response from the server. So that latency is nothing but the time between the request and the immediate acknowledgement. So that's basically latency time. What is the response time means, the request, as soon as we have sent the request and the request reaches to the server is processing the request, and finally it will send the response. So the complete latency time plus we have processing time plus response time, all that together we can call as a response time. So it is also called as a sample time, also called as a load time or elapsed time. It is basically difference between the time when request was sent and the time when response has been fully received. So always the response time will be greater than or equal to latency time. So the formula is response time is equal to latency time plus processing time. Again, the processing time includes throughput also, because throughput is nothing but the number of requests processed by the server within a second of time. So that's called a throughput. So processing time plus latency, processing time includes the even throughput also. So that is our latency that will be shown in this particular report. and connection time. So whenever I start a request, how much time it is taken to connect to the server. So that will be displayed here. So this is view result in a table. This is a basic report we can see here. Now I'll show you something here. For example, in this thread group, I have 3 members and one request I have sent, and this is a report. So let's create one more thread group and see. I'm just adding one more thread group, and here I will name it as thread group 2. And here also I'll say number of users, I'll just say 2, and number of seconds, okay, 1. So loop count is 1. So here I'm just saying only 2 users. So under this thread group, I'll just copy the same request. I'm just copying under here. So the same request I have also copied under thread group 2. So this is another group, this is another group. Currently I have 2 thread groups, and each thread group having a single request, that is HTTP request. Now when I run this test plan, so save it, I'm just clearing everything and just run my test plan. So after running this, go and see the result. So if you see this particular result, you can see only from the thread group 1, only 3 users have done the request. But what about from group 2 request? So it is not logged into this particular report. Why? Because the results have not loaded here, because this particular report or listener whichever added will be part of thread group 1. So only thread group 1, whatever request we have sent will be captured into this particular result. Suppose I want to capture the result from thread group 2, then I can also copy the same listener under thread group 2. I'm just pasting over here. So now I have a 2 results table. So for thread group 1 there is 1, and thread group 2 also there is 1 more. So let's clean the result and let's run the plan one more time. I'm just running it. So once we have run this, now you can see here I'm thread group 1 result table I can see. So in thread group 1 I have defined 3 users. So in the table also it will show you only 3 user, and every user sent the same request. And when you come to the thread group 2 here, again see this report here, I mentioned only 2 users, so it is giving only 2 entries here, right? So these reports or these listeners I have defined at the thread group level. Suppose I want to combine these, I want to just create only one result table which should we should have all the result from all the thread groups. Then what I can do is I can just create a listener at the plan level, not the thread group level. Okay, so now what I can do is I can just copy it, or I can directly move to the plan also. Just I'm moving to the plan level. So once I have moved it, then this particular report will be part of your test plan. So now you can see here that group 2 doesn't have any reports. I'm just removing this report. Just remove this report. Right, so now this thread group 1 having 1 request, and this thread group 2 is having one more request, and this result 1, this report is at the plan level. So I'm just clearing everything. Now this is doesn't have anything. Now currently 2 thread groups, every group is having 2 requests, and first request is having 3 users. First thread group is having 3 users, second thread group is having 2 users. So let's execute now our test plan, and then once we execute it, now we can see the table. Now we can see total 5 entries are there. So first 3 are coming from thread group 1. So you can see thread group 1, thread group 1, thread group. So there can 3 entries are there from thread group 1, and thread group 2 we have 2 entries we have from thread group 2. So now we got the combined result from thread group 1 as well as thread group 2. So we can also create one listener, so which contains the result from all the thread groups. Or if you want to get results separately, I can just create a listeners for separate groups. Okay. So similarly, we can just try to add rest of the listeners. So let's say one more listener called view results tree. So let's add that particular listener also. Let's go to test plan, right click, then go to listener. Now here I will say view results in tree mode. So I can just say tree here. So view results tree. So now I have added view results tree here. Okay, so now I have added view results tree here, and then you can see here the name is there, and So there is a facility we have. Suppose if you want to upload these results into some file, we can also browse some file here. I'll show you later here. So currently we don't have anything here. What I can do is just I'm clearing everything, and then I'm just running my test plan. So currently I have a thread group 1, thread group 2. Every thread contains a number of requests. So let's run my test plan. Now, once we ran this, just go to the tabular result. We got all 5 entries from thread group 1 as well as 2. Now go to results view. Here also we got the 5 requests. Now we can see for every request, it is sent 4 different type of APIs. All right. So if you see the first request for 0, 1, 2, 3, and again second request, we can see 4 different APIs have been run internally. So now if you see the other content in this particular listener report, sampler results. So if you see, just take one request here, and you can see here, this is the sampler result. So it will give you thread name, sample, when the sample started, load time, and connect time, and latency time. So everything will be displayed here. And if you go to the request tab here, what is the request we send to the server will be displayed here. And under request also, you can say request body, request headers also will be displayed. And finally, response data is also displayed in the HTML format, whichever format is the page is supported. So this is a one kind of listener report, view results tree. Now we'll see one more report, that is graph results. So let's see the graph results now. Let's go to JMeter. So here I'm adding one more listener. So you can see for now I'm just deleting this thread group 2. I don't require here. Fine. So now I have one request on thread group 1. So I have 2 reports earlier we have added. Now this time I will add one more report. So right click here, add listener. And this time I will add graph results. Let's go to graph results. Now here it will show you graph here basically. So let's run and see what could be displayed here. So save the test plan and execute one more time. Clear the result, earlier previous result, and then execute it. So this time I will also just increase number of threads, that is, let's say 5. Number of users I'm just increasing, and save it and execute my test plan. So now you can go and see your graph results for 5 threads. So it is generated. So now tree output, everything is fine. So in the graph results, it is generated something here. So you can see data, average, medium, everything is selected. So if you want to clearly see this, what I can do is I can just make this as a forever, because it keep on hitting the server and we can see the graph, it is growing or not. So save this plan and again clean the result and then execute your test plan one more time. Now go to the graph results. Now you guys can observe here, it will just hitting the server, and your number of samples are increasing, and latest samples and the throughput is giving here median, average time. So you can see here, so median, average time, throughput, so everything is increasing here. So deviation. So this is basically graph results. So by seeing this data, we can just understand how this is happening. Okay, so this is our graph results. I'm just stopping for now. Okay, so then, so just go to, this is your graph results, guys. So now let's go to HTTP request again. So for now, I'm just go to thread group and I'm just removing forever. I'll just put only one for now. So this is a graph results, guys. So here, this will generate a graph like this. Here it contains a deviation, throughput, all the stuff. So we'll see one more reports. After graph results, aggregate report and aggregate graph. So we have 2 different type of graphs, aggregate report and aggregate graph. So let's see how to add aggregate report. So let's go to plan again, right click, add listener and aggregate report. So just show, I'm selecting aggregate report here. Now it is added aggregate report. So here also it is giving a tabular format. So now here we need to understand a few important points. So it is just a label. Let me run the first request and then we'll discuss what are those fields. Go to plan and execute our plan. Then we got the aggregate report. So let's execute first and then we got the plan. So let us execute this first of all. So it is think not executed. I said 5 and 1. Okay. So let's stop it again. I'm clearing everything. Just run one more time. Go to the plan, and for now, just graph result. I'm just disabling this and save it and execute this again. So now I have executed. So now we can see aggregate report is generated. So total samplers are 5. So this is basically average time it is displayed. This is median. So what is median here means? So the request, suppose I say 5 here, right? So 5 members will send one request. So what is median? Nothing but, so the number of requests, half of the request will complete between below this particular time, and half of the requests are completed uh, after this particular time, like 1410. So half of the request, let's say 50% of the requests are completed within this time, and rest of the 50% of the requests will completed after this time. So this is basically median, which is calculated. Now here 90% line and 90%, 95% line and 99% line is representing. So these many the request will completed 90% request will be completed within this time, and 95% request within completed this particular time, and 99% of the requested completed in this particular time. So this almost 99% time, and maximum time is always almost same here. And error percentage 0, and throughput. So throughput means how many requests processed by the server within this particular time, it will show here. And to process this request, 5 requests by the server, this much is time is taken, and this is received KB size and sent KB. So these are size of the responses. So this is a report which is given by aggregate report. So we also have aggregate graph. So let me just add that also. So right click on the plan, right click, add listener, and we can say aggregate graph. So let's go to aggregate graph and aggregate report. Whatever data we have seen here, the same data will be populated here in the form of graph. So let me just run this again, then we can see the graph. I'm just saving, clearing everything. Then currently we don't have anything here, so let me execute plan one more time. So click on the run button, start. Now we can see aggregate graph. So for 5 requests, the same data is displayed here. Whatever data we have seen aggregate report, same data is displayed here. Now if you want to see the report, so just click on the graph here, display graph. Now it is giving the graph. So currently this graph contains only average time. Suppose I want to display the rest of the time or rest of the columns in this graph, I can go to settings here and just select the rest of the fields here. So for example, I want to display the median, and then I want to display the minimum and maximum. Okay, so again go to display graph here, then it will show you all the fields. So average rate representing average, and medium time, minimum time, and maximum time. So this is another type of graphs. This is aggregate graph. So whatever is displayed in the aggregate report in the tabular format, the same data will be representing as a graph format. So we have seen aggregate graph and aggregate report, and then we'll see summary report. So let's go to again JMeter. So this time I will add summary report, and I'm clearing the data and go to plan, add, go to listeners and summary report. So this summary report is contains all the information, the complete information. So here you can say label, samplers, average time, minimum, maximum, and additionally it will also calculate the standard deviation and throughput, and also so on. So let me just clear the data and run the plan one more time. And I've started. Now you can see the summary report will generating the data. So suppose if currently we have only one request HTTP, so that it is giving only one entry here, and total it is saying. Suppose if you have multiple HTTP requests here, or multiple requests here, all the requests will be added to this particular table, and total request will be calculated. So this is average time, and it is minimum time, maximum time is taken, standard deviation, there is no error percent, and the throughput, received KBs and sent KBs, average bytes. So this is a basically size, received KB and sent KB, average bytes. This is the size of your content. And throughput, again number of requests processed by the server within a second of time. So this is basically throughput time which is displayed for 5 different requests. So this is again summary report. And finally, I can show you one more report, that is simple data writer. So this is mostly used report, so simpler data writer. So I'll show you what's the main difference between others and simple data writer. So if you go to JMeter, I'll just add another listener. Right click on the plant, add, and go to listener, and here I will just add a simple data writer. So here we don't have anything except this file name, right? So what this listener will do is it will consolidate all the data from the results and upload it into some file. So uploaded that into some file. So let me just browse some files. So what I can do is, let's go to some E drive, and here I will just create one file. It can be text file or CSV file, anything is fine. So I'm just creating some file called result.csv, and I'm just result.csv. I have just created one file. So I'm just browse that particular file here. So just click on browse, and under E drive, and I created csv.csv, just selected that file and open. So I think there is a problem in this file. So okay, no, fine. So I have just browsed this file one more time, open, and it is giving some error loading result file, C log file. Okay, I think CSV is not supporting. Let's go for configure, and okay, so here when I click on the configure, it will show you what kind of data you want to send to your file. Okay, so now close this. For now, I'm just adding the txt file. So result.I'll say txt file, and I'll browse this particular file. So browse and go to here. That is the result file. So just go to E drive. I think I have a txt file somewhere here. So let me just select all the files and go to txt file, result.txt, open. So okay, so once we added, let's go and execute this one. So save your plan. Now I'm just started clearing old data, then I'm executing my test plan. Just execute this. So it is saying the file .exe already exists. So what do you want to do? So because just now I created this file, so if file is not exist, it will create a new file. So I'm saying overriding existing file or append the existing file, don't start. So I can just appending to the existing file. So if you don't create your own file, so it will be created a new file. Okay, so now, so I can get all the data results here. Then we can see this particular file which is having the data or not. So open the result.txt. Now you can see all the data, all the report is appended here. Okay, so this is the txt format, and we can also create this data in the exe format or CSV format. Let me just create another file here. This time I will create a CSV format. Let's say result1.csv format. So it should also accept. So result.csv format, I just created one file. Go to JMeter and just clearing all the data. Now this time I will just browse CSV file. Just go to result.csv, open. Then once we have added this particular file, then again save the test plan and clear the data and execute one more time. Just run the file. Again, it is giving append to the existing file. Yes. Now it is, we are getting the data, and finally we will see this particular file. So just go to the location and open this result.csv. Now I have just opened this file. So now we got the same data here, the same output, we got it here, right? So this is how we can also upload a result in CSV file or text file, sometimes the log files. So all kinds of files will be supported here. So this is simple data writer. So finally, we have discussed all these listeners, right? View results in table, results tree, graph results, aggregate report, aggregate graph, summary report, and finally simple data writer we have seen. So among those listeners, some of them will collect the data and populate the data or show the data in your UI, JMeter UI. So especially for graph type of report, this one, view results tree here. This is graphical oriented report. And this graph results also graphical oriented. And here aggregate graphs. This is also GUI related graphs. So normally what happens is when I use these kinds of listeners, it will take a lot of time to collect the data from the results, because this is just a learning purpose I have just created for a few threads. Just I have say only 5 threads and just one request. But when you're working on real time, you will run heavy load. So multiple requests we will run with heavy load. So in those cases, what happens is it will take a lot of time and it will consume a lot of memory. And also it will collect the data, and populating this UI will be taking a lot of time. So in that case, your results will not be properly accurately there. So instead of this, so you can just disable these graphs. But at the initial level, once we have created everything, if you are checking the data is properly getting or not, you can just do these trials. After that, you can just disable this kind of report. So especially view, result view, tree view, I can just disable this one. And here it will take some time to populate the data in the report. And similarly, graph result. So graph is also UI format report. So these type of reports, just you can disable it. Okay, so disable it. So here summary report. So tabular type of reports are fine because the data is printing in the tabular form, but still these are all UI reports. But still it is fine if you compare with the graphical reports. But the most important and very useful is simple data writer, because this particular listener will not populate any data on your UI. So just it will directly export the results back to your files, either CSV file or text file or log file. So it will not populate anything in the UI, so it will not waste another time, or it will not again consume any memory here. So that's the reason this is more effective than rest of the listeners. So most of the times our project we use simple data writer. So it will directly go and write the results back into your files. You can also filter the what kind of data you want to write. So if you just click on the configure here, so you can select multiple options here. So what kind of results you have to send to your file, you can just select them, and the same results you can get it from the CSV file or log file or TXT file. So that's more effective than others one. So make sure while you are working on real time, so if you're really having number of threads, more number of threads and heavy load, then don't go for this kind of UI reports. So always prefer to use simple data writer. So this will send all the consolidated result into back to your CSV files or other kinds of files. Okay, so here I have just covered mostly commonly used type of listeners which are very useful in your projects. All right, so that's all for this video, guys. So thanks for watching this. We'll see you in the next video.